When he saw the photos, he was going crazy. He had lost the rhyme to his father, and he had lost it badly. He thought Soar was the biggest chance of his life, and finally, this miserable life had shown him its good side. But now he realized that Soar had also turned out to be a fraud. Soar, with the same purple scarf that he had bought for her, and with her usual sweet smile, was on one side of the photo, and on the other side was a man about 50-something years old with salt and pepper hair. The man was holding the 18-year-old girl tightly in his arms, and the girl was clinging to him as if she had found a lost love after 1,000 years. Behind the curtain of this seemingly romantic photo, where it appeared the girl had found a wealthy suitor, lay a bitter and strange secret that sparked a horrific crime. About a week after this photo was taken, the butchered body of a wealthy suitor was found in his own home. Hello friends, welcome to the Confession channel. You are watching and listening to another case from our series of videos. The case of the brutal murder of a 57-year-old man whose body was found with bound hands and feet in his own home. If you are interested in confession reports from criminal cases, we would be happy if you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell next to it, so you don't miss new videos. This horrific criminal case was opened on the 10th of Bahman 1401 in the Kazaneh neighborhood of Tehran, with the brutal murder of a 57-year-old man by his 20-year-old son. A case that had terrifying details, and progressed in a completely strange manner until it reached its conclusion 2 years later, in the most unbelievable way possible. To narrate this complex and strange case, we need to go back to the evening of Monday, the 10th of Bahman 1401, and start from the point where a 20-year-old named Behnam calls the police emergency center 110 and reports a horrific crime. He says that he returned home from work just minutes before and was confronted with the blood-soaked body of his father in the house. When the officers from the 160th Kazaneh police station arrived at the crime scene, they encountered a strange sight. The victim's hands, feet, and mouth were bound, and he had been killed with multiple stab wounds. There was no sign of theft or an accidental incident. The condition of the body indicated that the victim had fallen prey to something resembling an act of revenge. The killer, without any haste or stress, had tied the victim's hands and feet, and taking his time, inflicted multiple stab wounds to various parts of the body. Not all the wounds were deep, and it was evident that they were inflicted with the intent to torture the victim. However, ultimately, a blow from behind. The first one insisted and said that when he returned from work, he encountered his father's corpse. However, during further investigations and examination of Behnam's calls and messages with his father, the police discovered something that uncovered the secret of this horrific crime. A 19-year-old girl who was simultaneously in a relationship with both Behnam and his father. The girl was identified and summoned, and her statements at the intelligence department shed the most important light on this case, in a way cornering Behnam and forcing him to confess to his father's murder. This 19-year-old girl named Soar was initially Behnam's girlfriend, and they had even made some promises for marriage. However, Behnam's mother was opposed, and for this reason, Behnam went to live with his father, so that with his father's help, he could propose to Soar. He even arranges a meeting and introduces Soar to his father. However, the tragedy that occurs in the meantime is that Behnam's father starts a relationship with the girl, and Soar, because of the father, loses interest in Behnam. When Behnam notices the girl's indifference, he becomes suspicious and follows her, only to discover that, yes, his girlfriend is involved with his father. To be sure of the real story, he takes his father's phone and sees the love photos of Soar and his father together. That's when he loses it and attacks. Finally, on the night of the crime, Behnam takes a drink from outside and puts sleeping pills in it, giving it to his father. When his father passes out, he ties up his hands, feet, and mouth, and after torturing him for nearly an hour, he stabs him in the back with a knife. He had planned to take the body outside, but there was too much blood in the house and he felt he couldn't clean it up without getting caught. So he planned to act as if he was unaware. With the details of this case coming to light, Behnam was charged with premeditated murder and sent to court. In court, he didn't have much of a defense and only said, "My father was very unfair to take away the only love of my life." That night I tied him up to understand exactly what was going on. I didn't intend to kill him, but that unfair man, instead of admitting he was wrong, shamelessly told me that Sahar wasn't right for me. That unfair man said he wanted to marry her, and I lost it and hit him. With the suspect's confession to killing his father and the reconstruction of the murder scene, the victim's family, who were Behnam's 2 sisters and brother, requested retribution. With the issuance of the death penalty verdict, the murder case was sent to the court for execution of the sentence. While Behnam was not far from the gallows, his 2 sisters appeared in court and forgave him, foregoing retribution. However, his only brother still insisted on retribution. About 2 years had passed since the murder, and Behnam was held in Kezelsaar prison during this time. He sent a proposal, but Shervan's father, due to property disputes with his brother, was not at all agreeable to the marriage and gave his daughter to the son of another brother. Shervan, at 19, sat at the wedding table with one of his cousins, while everyone knew he wanted someone else. Because of this, he couldn't start a good and healthy life. Her husband was not a bad or troublesome person, but the thought that his wife wanted someone else always bothered him, and they often argued. 3 years into their marriage, their arguments escalated significantly, and Shervan left her husband's house and returned to her father's home. She and her husband had already made arrangements for a divorce, with the plan being that Shervan would forgo her dowry and her husband would grant her the divorce. However, Shervan's father and her father-in-law did not allow the divorce to proceed. 2 weeks after the day she had left in anger to her father's house, Shervan was forced to return to her husband's home. On the surface, everything seemed normal, and Shervan appeared to be the same person as before. However, during the time Shervan was at her father's house, she was once again struck by the thought of her former love. Despite still being married, she pursued this forbidden love, and the romantic affair with her old flame led to a horrific ending for her. Under the pressure from her father and father-in-law, she returned to her husband's home. However, she had already rekindled her relationship with her former love, and on the nights when her husband worked night shifts at the factory, she would bring her old flame into the house to continue their affair. The revelation of this secret relationship in that small town where everyone knows each other was neither surprising nor complicated. One of the neighbors was the first to see the old flame sneaking into Shervan's house at night, and they relayed the story to Shervan's husband through his brothers-in-law. The brothers-in-law wanted to confront the same young man who had an affair with their brother's wife and do something about it. That guy. But the husband says he can't believe it until he sees it with his own eyes. That guy. But the husband says he can't believe it until he sees it with his own eyes. That's why every night at the time he would usually leave for the factory, he left the house. But instead of heading to the factory, he hid near the house and kept watch to see if the rumors he heard about his wife were true or not. These stakeouts were fruitless for the first 2 nights, and there was no sign of his wife's lover. He had taken a week off from the factory to get to the bottom of this matter, and on the 3rd night, he saw what he had been waiting for. At around 10:30 at night, his cousin, the one everyone knew was Shervan's former love, came in front of his house, took out his phone, made a call, and the sound of the door buzzer was heard. The door opened and he went inside. The husband had reached the brink of madness and wanted to go in and settle the matter immediately, but he waited again until he could enter, at a point where they would have no room for denial or excuses. Behnaman was stuck in Kezelsaar prison, waiting to see if he would be executed sooner or if his brother might grant forgiveness. This agonizing wait finally took its toll on Behnam, and on January 8, 2025, one night he had a heart attack in his sleep. Before they could get him to the prison infirmary and do anything for him, he lost his life due to cardiac arrest. And with the death of this convict awaiting execution, his case was effectively closed. Thank you for staying with us until now. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so to support us in our activities.